How you doing today? My name is Rob, and I'm going to talk to you about Microsoft Access. And today's subject is going to be hello, welcome. And today's subject is going to be database objects. So, welcome to the class. This is my second time streaming on YouTube. So, if I make some mistakes, I apologize. I'm new at this, but we're going to get to the class now. And without further ado, we're going to start. So database objects are basically the things like your tables, your reports, queries, anything, they're the different objects, and I'll explain what these are when we get into this. So let's go to it right now, starting now. So when we look at a database object, when you will, the first thing you'll do is create a table. And when you create the table, the very first thing, or when you create the database, the very first thing that you're going to see is a table. So a lot of times we just delete this and create another table, but let's go through here. So if you want to know what the objects are, hit the create button. So you have the tables, so you could create a blank table. Now I'll just delete this one so that we could start. You can create a table, you can create a query. I'm going to show you how to create each one of these, and then that'll be the first class today. Create a report and create a macro or Visual Basic. And this macros and Visual Basic will be some of the last things that we'll talk about. And it does require some coding, not for macros, but for Visual Basic. And Visual Basic is a macro, but they've created a simplified process to make macros compared to what they used to be. Now, you can create a database without any coding, and you can make it functional. You can make it do a lot of things. You may need a little bit of coding just to get some extras in there, things that you normally couldn't do. So the tables, they are pretty much the foundation of the database. The tables are where you store your data, and it is for example, let's go ahead and create a table here. So let's create a table from, actually, let's do it this way. Create a table from the table design. So the table, first of all, you're going to have a field like the name. Now, one of the first things you should have in a table is an ID number in there. And every table pretty much needs an ID number. And I'm going to explain why later. A lot of people will do this without IDs, but it's not a good idea, because you have to relate the tables to each other. We're creating a relational database, and you have to relate them with ID numbers, a unique ID. Like, for example, you could have two people with the same name, maybe two John Smiths, something like that, and that would not be unique, and you might confuse the information. But if you store it with an ID, which is a unique ID, then you're not going to have a problem. But let's say, for example, if you forget to do it, it's gonna remind me to do it afterwards. And the ID number is usually a descending number, but you could also do a random number too. So let's go with first name. Just 1 second here. Now you can put spaces in there, but I recommend not doing that. So we put the first name, last name, and middle name. Now the default is going to be short text. I could say, for example, if I want to put age down here. Now age, of course, it's a good idea to have a number in it. If you want to have information, remarks, or something like that, it might not be a good idea to have short text because short text is limited to 55. So you can put a long text in there if you have to put long recorded information about the person. So you could put a date, start date in here, and you can't call it. You cannot call the field like date because it will not allow it, because date is a reserved name. This also name, you cannot call it name either because it's reserved, and it could hurt when you're writing code later on. So we have the start date, so this is going to be a date time, and let's see here, what else do we have? We could have currency, so let's put maybe salary, and this could be the salary. Like, say for example, if you have a salesperson or you have someone that does a contract, you might have their salary, or maybe hourly. So if this person does a contract, you know how much to bill the customer based on the hourly wage. So there are other things you could go in here, do here too, but these are the main ones. You could do different types of numbers and so forth. So let's go ahead and try to save this. Now what it's going to do, it's going to ask me if I want to well, it'll usually ask me if I want to do a primary key. So I'm going to name this employees. Alright, so it's a little bit slow here, but so there's no primary key. So it's asking me for one. I could enter a primary key, and that's fine too. Now what I might want to do is rename this primary key, and I'm going to change this to employee ID. So because you want to have a specific type of ID. And you don't want too much You don't want any confusion. So employee ID, and then we have this saved. So this is the very fundamental. So we have our table here, and so we have the employee, and if I don't like the name, I can rename it. So put a couple of E's at the end. So we have our employees. Now, the next thing we want to do, we might want to add data. So I'm just going to create another thing here, and it's just going to be a form. And let's see, I guess we can go ahead and we'll use the form wizard for this one. So the form wizard, and we will add all of the data, except I'm going to remove employee ID because it's going to be automatic, so I don't really need it. So I'm going to take it out of there and click on next. And so there's different types of forms that you could do. You could do a columnar. This is going to be like page per page. Tabular, data, justified. So these have different feels to it. I think this is probably the most common, but if you have to load a lot of data, the data sheet view might be good. And I'm going to put in the data sheet view just to get a look, idea what it looks like. So I'm going to give this a different name. And so it looks like the battery in my keyboard has run out just when I need it most. So let's go here with so I'm just going to call it employee input. Click finish here. So now we have the information of the employee. Let's just put here give me 1 second here. I'm going to have to fix this. My apologies for not being prepared. It's just like a all of a sudden situation here. Okay, so let's give it a try here. Hopefully this is going to work out. So what timing? So anyway, first name is going to be John Smith. And I don't know. No middle name here. Age is 23. Remarks, nothing at the moment. Start is going to be, now you can also put a default date in here too, where it automatically puts the default in. And on the hourly is going to be 55. So this might be something like what you might charge the customer, or what you might pay. You could add another field in there for that. But we have this independent employee table that way we store only the employees, and we don't have other databases, or we don't have other tables that repeat the name of the employees over and over again. So this is one of the main objectives here. And that way, if we need the data from the employee, we have it, we can access it right here, and we don't have to repeat continuously. So and we have age is 25, and so they both started at the same time. So let's put here 55 as well. Now we have this table put here. Now the next thing that we might want to do is look here. Now let's go to the employees table. So if we go to the employees table, you can see here the employee ID has 1 and 2. So it is adding data. Now I can add data from here too. Now I cannot mess with this field because this it won't let me, because this is going to be sequential numbers going down. And if so, we have I don't know, so let's put another name in here. Let's give him a middle name, and make him 34. Let's put the start date a while back. So I could go in here and also add the start date myself. So I could go 4-4-21, and we could put him at 75 per hour. Now, of course, you can put salaries in here as well. It's just what you have to decide on what it's going to be. So we have this data here. Now the next thing let's look at here is we're going to create a query. Now a query just basically pulls the data that we have from the table, and it puts it in an order that is beneficial to us. So let's say, for example, we're going to pull the employees over here. Now I don't want to see everything. I might just want to see the first name, last name, the age, and maybe the hourly. Let's say I'm not interested in the age, but you're usually not worried about the age in a business. You're worried about their production. So we could put the start here. So so let's say we want a table that tells us about employees who started today, or within the last week. But let's just say today, and we want to know. So I might put in here. Well, let's just look at this now. So looking at this now, it shows everybody, but it just says first name, last name, the start date, and the hourly wage. So we go back to the design view, and we want people who started today. So we put date and hit enter. So if it says equal date, that the date is default to today. Now I could also default the date is going to be starting at midnight today. So anything after midnight would be here. Now I could put date minus 100 or something like that, or date minus 365, and it would be a year ago, except for leap years. And so if I want to look at the date, so let's so these are employees that started today. Now I could also put employees that started within the last 30 days maybe. So let's put equals date that's well, let's see. Yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and do that. So equals a date that's greater than, or no, I'm sorry. Greater than So if I want it to be greater than date minus 30, still not going to show the other person. But let's say we'll call this started last 30 days. So that'll be the name of this query. Now let's go ahead and add a couple more employees in here. So we add a couple more. We have Lisa Conway. I'm trying to think of names of people that I don't know, and that way I'm not making, adding anybody in here that I know by mistake that might see this video and think, why are you adding my name? But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and go here to, make this person 45. Started, maybe a few days ago. So let's go in here and click on the 3rd. I guess we could say it started at the beginning of the month. It started on the 1st, and their salary is 65. And we go down here, and we're looking at these. Now, we're looking at these people. Everybody's here, but if we look at our query, refresh the query here. Now Lisa gets added in here because the date is within the last 30 days. So this is the greater than symbol, date, and after the date, word date, you put parentheses. This is why you cannot use the word date, because it's reserved for this. And then minus 30. So date minus 30, it means anything that's within the last 30 days. Now I could put now, and that's starting at midnight. So I could put now, and that means anything that is now minus 30 days. So if I look at this now, you're still going to see Lisa there. But as soon as it's whatever time she's in there, and maybe it's just at midnight anyway, so it doesn't really matter. A lot of times you could use date and not now. Now's good, but it's probably better to use date if you're doing it on a day-to-day basis. So we have this here, and we'll save it. And now we might want to look at some data. Now today's is very simple process, and the objective here is to show you how to create a business database. So we're going to get a little bit more difficult each time. So go to create. Now create has, you know, everything, all the objects that you need. These are called objects, as I may have said before. But the next object, and there are four main objects that you use that are simple. You use the tables that stores the data, the queries which accesses the data, the forms that you use to add data, and the reports to read the data, to look at the data. So that's basically it. There, you know, you can use the forms for other things, but the table is basically to store data. Now you can store different types of data, and there may be like short data or long data that you may store, but there are different types. So now we're going to look at a report. So I guess we could go ahead and do the report wizard. I could just click report, and it's going to generate a report off of the information that I already have, and I don't want I'm just going to say no, but like say for example, if I click on here, create a report, it's going to take the report from the employee, it's going to call it employee, and it's going to have all the data in here. So maybe I don't want this type of report. So what I could do, and like I don't really need the employee ID on the report, but you know, sometimes you do, but it depends on how many people you have. But usually the employee ID is not going to be very big. Now, one of the best things that you could do if you want to create a report, and you could, if it fits in this category, but you could hit the report wizard, and the report wizard is going to select what you need. So I want first name, last name. I don't want middle name. Let's see. I'm just going to put start and hourly. So now what I could do is I could categorize people by wage or start. So let's say I want to categorize people by the start date. So I'm going to put in here, and it's going to be the month that they started. Now I can group it into other things too, year, quarter, you know, anything like that I want to. And maybe no, let's just keep it at month. So click OK, and you can look at the grouping. Well, we just looked at that, so we go next, and then we can sort it. And some people like it by last name, some people like it by first. Let's go by last name, first name, and we could have a summary option too. We could, well, it wouldn't really, we could put average in here because the sum wouldn't really count in this report because we're not summing up. I guess we could, but you know, it wouldn't make sense for this report, but we could look at the average, but you don't need it on here for an employee report. That might be for other types of reports, but you know, but those are some options. You could do that. And next, and then we have the different types of reports right here. If there's a lot of data in there, I would put it landscape, but this one is fine to do a portrait because it's not going to go across very much. Now there's different types, and we're just going to leave it at stepped. The other ones we could talk about it later, and we're going to call this employee report. And finish. So it gives us a preview of the report. Now you can see there's a couple problems here. The start date's not appearing, but that's an easy fix. So we go in here and click the design view, and everything's organized for us in this report. So basically the way this design view works is you have the report header right here. So this is the report header only appears one time. So I could change that name, and I'm just going to change it to employee report and move this up just a little bit. And then the page header, this appears at the top of every page. So this is what you're going to see at the top of each page. Now, one thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten a couple of these, and I can select all of them and shorten them all together. That way, now I'll select these two, and I'm just going to move them over. And then the start date, I'm just going to move that over here. Now, when we look at this, we can see the start date, and of course, this is for the month of April, and this is how the report works. We don't have an average down here for some reason. I'll have to figure out why that is. Maybe because I don't know, but we don't need that at the moment. I'm just gonna take the average out of here, or maybe it's no. Well, the field isn't even on there, so let's just leave it out for now, and then I'll show you how to do an average later on. So we don't need this, and we can kind of close it up here, and that'll give us less of a mess here. And then so April 21st, so it has the date on here, April 21st, and if we look at the design here, it has a format start, and we have the format as month, year, and so that's basically it's just going to show the month, year. I could put DD in here, and that would put the date, but we're looking at we're sorting everything by month, so we only need the month, and the year there. Month, month. And if you have four M's, that's going to be the full spelling of the month. If you have 3 M's, that will be the 3-letter month word. And if you have 2, then that's just going to be the number of the month. So I could also put MM/YYY, and that's just going to be the month, year 2. And we'll just leave it like it is. And then we have the last name, first name, and the start date here. Now let's go ahead and save this here. Now let's say, for example, if we went here and we realized that one of these employees, let's see here, I guess Mark Robinson actually started on 3/4. We made a mistake, so let's just put him in here just so we can see how it affects the report here, and close this thing. And then if we open the report again, we see there, hold up here, let's do a refresh. Maybe the data didn't get added, so let's go in here, and we have Mark Robinson. Let's go back to February here just to see if we can figure out what happened. Okay, so that data is stored, and you don't have to save the data. All you have to do is alright. Oh, okay, sorry, I'm changing the wrong person. I'm thinking I need to actually change Lisa Conway. So let's delete this. Let's close this again. I don't want to delete this. So we go to Lisa Conway, and let's change her to 3. And now, if I refresh this, you have a space for March in here. So everything is sorted by last name, well, first of all, it's grouped by the dates, and it's sorted by last name, first name. And that's that's pretty much the basics of this. Now what the objective here is, I'm going to start out with this simple database, but I want to show how a business database should look like, especially one that's related to logistics, but a relational database. And that's pretty much it. If you have it, so we only have, so some of these things we can't do it, like relationship, we can't do it because we only have one table in here. But I'm going to build from this database. If anybody wants a copy of it as I build it, like right now it's pretty simple. But if you follow the steps, you could build the database and follow along with me. And I'll provide tips and other things. And I'll explain what some of these other things do, like compact and repair, relationships, different things. So the main thing that we're focusing on is just to create. Now, one thing, just to explain. So if I click table, we have the table here is open. If I do table design, that's the one that we created on. This is one that I usually use to create the table, because then I can tell it how I want it to be. Now, if you have SharePoint, you can grab a SharePoint list. I've never done that. Now, create a query wizard is, you can go in here and create a simple query, which is what we did. Cross tab. You can find duplicates. You can find unmatched data, and I'll explain these in the future. And if we click on form, it takes the data that we're connected to and it automatically creates a form. And this is basically how the standard forms looks. And I can go to each person and update the data. Or I'm not going to save this one, or I could use this form here that lists all the data. So those are two different types of forms. And so I could do the form wizard, which is kind of like the report wizard. So I could select the ones that I want in here, which I don't know if I can even, I guess I did that already, but so I could do a blank design on a report, and I can create all the structures myself on there. If you're not, a lot of times if I kind of know, I might do it like this maybe half the time, but a lot of times I just use the report wizard because it kind of organizes a lot of those things for me, even though I have to go back and fix it, but it's not bad. And another thing that you could do is labels. So if you do a label, if you have labels for, I don't know, like I had to do one for a meeting, like an event, and people had name tags. So one of these, which probably was this one, I'm not sure now, but they had to, had to print out sheets of name tags, which this is excellent for, and you can pull this data, and that's pretty much it. So again, I appreciate you watching. I hope this was beneficial to you, and just reach out if you have any questions. Get in contact with me. Send me a message. I'm good at replying. So again, thank you for watching, and I hope this is helpful to some of you. And like I said, in the future, there's going to be some more that goes a little bit deeper on each of these.